Diamond Dallas Page, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, buddy. I like your wall back there. Is that all the people you've had on podcasts?
So here's some of them. So I've done 370 plus interviews, and it needs to be expanded out. As you can see, some blank spaces on the wall. But here's some of them, man. And hopefully your face. Maybe we'll put you right here, so then they can see in the camera. But
yeah, it's pretty crazy for me. I've saved my pictures over the years, and these are some of my favorites. But I've got so many. This whole downstairs area is probably about 1,800 square feet. It's pretty much wall-to-wall pictures.
I love it, man. Yeah, I can't even imagine. I can't really tell in the video, but I see Jake the Snake up on your wall. Is that Clint Eastwood? Like, just legends, legends everywhere,
yeah, that's
man.
Clint. That's Clint. That's Clint. And God, there's so many different people. I was lucky enough to meet Clint and oh God, now his name escapes me. Who's on oh God, it was the latest. He was the Midnight Cowboy. The original back in the 60s. He was also on Ray Donovan. He played his dad. Let's see him up there. I'm looking right at something. I can't remember his name.
I've been there, man. Like,
my brain has been so amazing for my memory. Just it's the only thing that I'll still have issues with is like a name. I just can't remember that name. But my brain, I've been in a hyperbaric chamber for the last 3 years.
wow.
And the one that I have is 15 psi. Like, I would be willing to bet LeBron's is a 4 or a 6 or 7, which is great for the body, but it takes to 12 to get to the mind. What I mean by that is 12 pounds per square inch. So the oxygen isn't just going through your body, it's breaking the brain blood barrier. And after I heard Benoit, when he died at the age of 41, and the crazy shit that went down, he had the brain of an 87-year-old Alzheimer patient.
Oh my.
So, it had a lot to do with what happened with Chris, because he was a good human being. But when your brain goes, everything goes, and I just turned 65 last month. So I'm constantly, for the last 10 years, I haven't been preparing for 65. I've been preparing for 75, 85, 95, 105, and still be able to do, a lot of the same stuff I can do. We'll see, right?
No, and I love that you take that approach and you talk about that stuff, right? You have your brain, you have to keep your body moving. Actually, my girlfriend is a yoga instructor, not a DDPY certified yet, right? We'll get her there. But she's a yoga instructor and she's worked through injuries. And unfortunately, her mom just passed away at 71 because she became stagnant. Wow. She didn't move her body. She didn't do the things she needed to do to stay healthy. And, and I look at you at 65 and, you just wrestled a match earlier this year, which is crazy, but that's really about you taking the time to focus in on your body. Like, how much of your day is dedicated to making sure you're at your peak all the time?
Oh God, a lot of it. And you have to remember, I am the poster. Arthur Borman, the disabled veteran, he's our poster boy, but so am I. So is Chris Jericho. So is AJ Styles. But me more than ever, I'm way older than all those guys. And for me to be able to, like, literally while talking to you, stand up and grab either one of my feet and pull it out and hold it in your face and then open up and have a conversation with you at 6'4", 224 pounds of twisted steel and sex appeal.
It's amazing.
And 65 years young, it is. So many people, look back at Bruce Springsteen sang a song called Glory Days, and that's where they live. But for me, it's like, I want to know, what have you done lately? Because that's what's going to pan out your next 10, 15, 20, 30 years. Like, all my buddies, 85% of them are retiring. They're 65. The guys I grew up with, 65, 66, 67. I'm like, no. And they're not doing anything to stay, oh, I'm walking. Well, good luck with that, because walking is good. It's better than sitting, but movement. Like the workout I just had with my girlfriend, her name is Paige, and her last name's McMahon.
Unreal.
No relation. But she's a yoga instructor. She was a yoga instructor 13 years before she got turned on to DDPY. And the main reason she started to move towards that, because I taught her it years ago, but it took us 8 years to get back together. And by that time, she was already doing it. She wasn't teaching it yet, but she had broken her back when she was 16 in 3 places. Then 3 years ago, she was up on top of a 15-foot tree. You know, she's at the tree went much higher, but she was on the 15 feet at that ledge, cutting off a branch with a chainsaw by herself. Not, you know, she's a really smart lady. So, but she doesn't think, well, nothing's going to happen. That was her attitude. And that limb swang back, caught her. She's got a chainsaw on. She had the sense to throw that away.
Thank goodness.
And she took a 15-foot back bump, broke her back in 3 more places, broke her leg and her arm with steel plates everywhere, and came back from it within 9 months. And she was she still does it once in a blue moon, but she'll start training and she'll run that race was 82 miles in 2 days. Whew. That's what she did. That's amazing. After a back and broke the second time. But the thing about DDPY, and people think stretching is what yoga is, and it's really not. Your lady will tell you it's so much more. Yeah. It's the glue. But what I did, DDP yoga is for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. And I just changed the blueprint. It's not all yoga. It's yoga, it's rehab, it's old school calisthenics. It's time under tension. It's flexing and engaging as you're moving. So you're not just stretching. Even when you're stretching and strengthening in yoga, you don't have the same thing happening as you do in my program, because we're stretching, flexing, and engaging. Just think time under tension, lifting weights. How do you get strong? You lift weights. I've created it without weights. And so she was back up and going in 3 months, so it's so important for me. Like, I wake up, first thing I do is a hot burn chamber. I was in it for an hour and a half today. Now it's oxygen under pressure of 15 PSI, which is like 40 feet below sea level.
Wow.
So now the oxygen isn't just healing you at a cellular level in your body. Now it's breaking into the mind area. Tomorrow, we'll do, Paige learned how to do IVs. Especially with COVID, we want to know more about vitamin therapy. Yeah. So she took a course, and now she'll give us, and I have a friend of mine who it's one of his businesses. He'll send me everything for cost. So I got an IV bag. I've got the most vitamin C you can be putting in your body before it turns to waste. Glutathione, which is something that they give to cancer patients to help heal them. And then as soon as I'm done with that, which will be about 35 minutes, I'm going to do NAD. You have to look up NAD to understand what that means, because it's like 17 letters. All I'll tell you, it's made my brain so sharp. I did a movie 3 months ago. It was about 8 months ago. I had 7 pages of dialogue in one scene, and most of it was mine. And I picked it up within 4 days. Today, I can do that last 2 pages, which was a monologue. I can still do it like that. I did it last night, and I hadn't done it in 3 weeks for Paige, just to see if I still had it. It's like repetition's the mother of learning, So I'm eating right. I eat really clean, but I still have a cocktail, still have some wine, still have margarita, but my kind, super clean. And, and I fill myself with nothing but positive energy,
Yeah, no, and I love it. And obviously my girlfriend has seen the benefits of yoga to heal their body. She was a dancer from the age of 3 to 21 and completely messed up her knee. She was like, I was like a weather vane, right? It was going to rain. It was going to whatever. And she knew, and she started yoga and she went, all of a sudden it doesn't hurt anymore. And I want to get into your story about, you breaking into wrestling at the age that you did, which is a lot older than most. And anybody who's not a wrestling fan, because this isn't a wrestling podcast. It's actually a self-development podcast, but it's my love of wrestling that has brought some wrestlers on to here and their stories that have been amazing. And yours is really at the top of the pile, right? You were the guy who during the Monday Night Wars, you were the face of WCW, or one of the faces of WCW. You really broke through it at such an older age. Like usually guys are breaking through at 30, 32, 35. How old were you when you broke through WCW? Just because I don't want to misquote.
When I broke in to start to train, now I tried to become a wrestler when I was 23. Didn't work out. At 31, I made a videotape to be a manager and sent it to the AWA with 3 guys that didn't wrestle. I made up characters: Big Bad John, Rock Hard Rick, and Teddy Bear. He was a midget. And this all came out of me drinking with my boys after the night was over. I had a big ass nightclub. We had 12 bartenders on Friday and Saturday nights. We were 7 bars. We were killing it. So I first met Jake Roberts. Wow. Long story short, though, I made this videotape and I sent it to the AWA. They called me up 2 weeks later. They want to bring me and my boys in for a tryout. But we've got one question. We've showed your tape around. No one really knows who you guys are. Where are you working at? Well, Rob, none of those guys can wrestle. He's like, what? Why would you send a tape in? I'm like, because it's like a secret society. Figure out how do you get into it. It's not like you play baseball as a kid and then you play baseball in high school. Then hopefully you get to college and then you get drafted. There's none of that. It's like a secret society. And basically it was, don't call us, we'll call you. But 2 weeks later, and you'll recognize this name, Paul Heyman, then was called Paulie Dangerously, left the AWA, went to the NWA, and it left a huge void for a young guy that could talk. So for 3.5 years, not making any money, cost me money to be DDP. I look like this cat back then. And
I love the hair.
That's how I dressed in the nightclub that I was running, take the sunglasses off. And I was Diamond Dallas Page back then, just having fun. And I was the guy who ran all the contests. That's why I was so good on the mic immediately, because I'd been in the DJ booth. I'd been running contests, hot legs contests, and bikini contests and all that stuff down in Fort Myers, Florida, and New Jersey, same thing. And by the time I got Florida Championship Wrestling brought me in with Dusty Rhodes. This is a picture of me and Dusty from 33 years ago.
Legends, man.
That money or what, man?
That's amazing.
Without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. When Dream went back to WCW after being the polka dotted guy up in WWE, which was a total rib, let's put Elvis / John Wayne in polka dots. That was a rib by Vince. And he got it over like crazy. He got it over because it's Dusty Rhodes. But bottom line is that he came back to WCW, brought me in as a manager. And after I got a contract 3 months later, 5 months into that contract, I was told by Magnum TA that I couldn't manage anymore. I was 35 and a half. And I was like, what did I do wrong, Mags? I'll fix it. And he's like, truth, you didn't do anything wrong. It's not your fault. The hair, the bling, the clothes, this cat, look at the holes in the knees back in 1989. Like
I love it, man.
now
It's back
like a
now,
fashion
apparently.
statement. That was like a fashion statement, right? But he told me that I was too over the top for professional wrestling, the hair, the clothes, the plate, the dolls. So I had 7 months left of my contract. And that's when I went down to power plant and said, the hell with this. I'm going to learn how to wrestle. And everyone laughed at me. And at some point, because I met Jake in my nightclub years earlier, and he knew I was a good guy, and we got along great, he came into WCW for a blip, and then he was gone. I tore my rotator cuff over that period. They let me go. So it looks like that dream's over.
Yeah.
And Jake ended up, because he didn't have any place to stay at that time, living with me for 3 months. He took me under his wing for next couple of years. He would watch my matches. He would critique them for me. I tell everybody, without Jake, without Dusty Rhodes, there is no Diamond Dallas Page. Without Jake the Snake Roberts, there's no 3-time world champion. Without the both of them, I'm never a Hall of Famer. They just guided me in ways that made me see where people were going to try to stab me in the back. Let me see, like, okay, that's not a good idea. Like I told Jake one time, they hadn't done anything with me. I came back at 37. At 38, they said they were going to give me an angle and let's see if he gets over. And Jake said to me, here's what they're going to do to you. They're going to put you in the ring with someone who means nothing. And the angle will never get over. And then they'll go, look, we gave him his chance. He couldn't get anything over. I go, but what if it's a really great angle? He goes, won't matter. I go, why are you being so negative? He goes, I'm not, I'm telling you the truth. He goes, who's Robert Goldman? This is around that time. I said, the guy that OJ killed.
Yeah.
He said, do you think you'd know who he was if Ralph Smertz killed him?
That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, right. But it was Jake could take things from real life and bring them in, because so much in why people identify, like yourself, you're a smart guy. And some people would, I know there's friends of yours that are mad at you because you like wrestling.
Oh yeah.
Well, let me educate those ignorant individuals. Vince McMahon, because of wrestling, when TV is going through this metamorphosis, because of Zoom now, with podcasts, streaming, from, now Peacock, everything. Everybody's got their own streaming, like HBO, everyone. Vince had the network a decade before anybody except for Netflix. Bottom line is, when everybody started losing ratings, Fox paid the WWE $1.2 billion, not to buy the company, for 8 years of programming. 8, not 18, not 80, 8. What's even crazier than that, I go to look for the network because WrestleMania is coming up, and I see this thing for Peacock.
Yep.
Now, I already know that Peacock's grown, and Peacock is NBC. So they're coming heavy. So where do they go to get content that people care about that's going to make a dramatic impact now? Not next year, 5 years, 10 years now. Where are they going to go where they can go to some entity that is going to make a difference in their company in 30 fucking days?
Yeah, it's aggressive.
They signed that deal. Sounds crazy. Peacock paid Vince $1 billion. Now it's for 5 years of using the network library. Now, I know a lot of people had to think that was crazy until they finally hear what the numbers were.
Yeah.
The first month, $30 days of the Peacock bringing in the WWE that month brought in 36 million subscribers.
That's great. I was one of them.
Yeah, the WWE, and you got to love it because they used to be $9.99. Peacock has figured out the perfect price, and they can afford it. Mm-hmm. $4.99. That's half what they were paying. Half. So they're charging $4.99. Let's do the math. And let's just say next month, 6 million people leave. So there's 30 million more people. That's $150 million
a month.
That's 1.5 billion in the first 10 months.
Jeez. Yeah.
So
it's
you
unbelievable.
tell me.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad you brought that up because as I've evolved and grown as a human from little kid watching Hulk Hogan to the Monday Night Wars in high school to what is wrestling now, I follow wrestling a lot of times to be like, what is Vince doing next? What's the business mind behind all of this? And because it's such a powerful demographic, like the generational hold of everything. I mean, I watch wrestling now with my daughter's or my girlfriend's daughter who's 8 years old, and she loves it. And she loves Asuka and she loves all these wrestlers. And I just love seeing that energy, but that's that lifelong commitment, right? Like I'm sure you see people that are like, dude, I grew up watching you. Like you're my childhood, you're everything. And they're still huge fans now. So then what's the business around that? Right. And it's just so crazy to watch.
Well, it's literally, Justin, there is no DDP yoga without wrestling. Like I'm branding everything DDPY now. Why? Because I want people to stop calling it just effing yoga. Because if your girlfriend did this, and she will, because I'm going to set you up with the app, she will. One time she may do it. And if she gets it, she's going to go, wow, this is really interesting. Or she's going to go, this isn't yoga. Exactly. It's DDPY. Why? Because we do, first of all, most yogis are very namaste. DDPY, way more TNA. And in the beginning, I meant TNA. But within 4 months of me starting this company 16 years ago, I was blown away by how many women were so passionate about my program. The TNA became tone and attitude. Because when you hear me talk, I know a lot of people think, oh God, he'll kill me. Kill you? My workouts start off in bed. I have a whole program called Rebuild. Starts off in bed. Like you can't get out of bed. Your grandmother can't get out of bed. I can help her. Yeah. I can help her not only get out of bed by working out in bed, then sit in a chair. My chair force workouts. Now I'm going to help get her heart rate up and everything. Sitting in a chair, moving, flexing, engaging. Then she's going to use the chair to get up and get down and balance and bring back their life because she's only 67, or 75. I have a guy who's going to be 87 this, I think it's June. Wait till you see what we're going to do with him. You're going to flip back. He's been working with me for 20 years.
Wow.
This birthday. And
now, is he the guy in the Relentless video that's on Amazon?
The older guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not the guy with the canes. That's Arthur. He's the poster boy. And for any of your people who don't, when you talk about things, people, it's really hard to get people to understand like how big a deal changing lives for certain people is. And I'm looking right now for my changing lives deal. That's so weird. Oh, this is albums. I've got so many of them now. You keep talking and I'll pop. Oh, here it is. Let me show you this. This is disabled veteran Arthur Borman. At this point, he's 47. He got knee braces and back brace and canes. He hasn't walked without those in 15 years. This is day one. This is 10 months later. Now, forget the weight loss. Look at his physiology there and there.
It's amazing.
Look at his mobility there and there. Here and here. Now, this is my favorite picture. I'm like, Arthur, why is your son holding on to you? He goes, because I'll fall on my face. Not now. From, this is in a 10-month period. Now, every single person, those are my 6 pictures. This is my 6th one. So a lot of people will take them and they can stand on one leg and they can only balance, a foot or 2 off the ground. He can't balance on 2 legs. So he had to sit down and see where you go. You would never think he could end up there. In 10 months. Excuse me, in 10 months, he lost 140 pounds. More importantly, he lost the knee braces, the back braces, and the canes, not just to walk, but to run. On his 1-year anniversary, he's 5'6". He took a picture with his 6'1" son.
Unbelievable.
That's DDPY.
I haven't seen that photo. I've seen all the other ones. That last one's really cool. I haven't seen that one. And the video obviously went viral. And I remember seeing it however many years ago it came out and just crying because of the impact that has made. And before I hit record, I was saying to you, I really wanted you on this show because of the change that you've made in not only your life, but so many others' lives. Because for so long in your career, people said, you can't do it. Like you said, you start training at 35, you're crazy. You're never going to make it. And then you go to the top of WCW and WWE and do amazing things. And now DDPY, right? You're changing the face of yoga and saying, this is for everybody. This will change your life. This is going to get you strong enough. Now, I want to get into your story a little bit about how you got into yoga and then creating it to what it is now as DDPY, because I think that's rather inspirational, because at 42, you broke your back, right? So you broke your back.
I ruptured my L4 and L5 so severely, like I couldn't sit. It was bad. And on my L4, L5, I'm bone on bone. And L4, L5, it's got something there, but it's not. So much of what I do is like most people, they reach. I am constantly elongating, constantly pulling those vertebrae apart, and understand what blowing out a disc would be. It would be like taking a jelly donut and doing that. Now those fragments are all in there until they dissipate. The bottom line is, it's all about doing this and creating that length in everything I do. Like for yoga, you would say, reach your arms to the heavens, fold forward, gaze up, bring your hands to the mat and lower. Inhale to cobra, exhale to down dog. That's probably about 8 or 10 calls. Just me to get you to folding forward, it's about 20 calls.
Wow.
Because I'm moving your hips, your shoulders. I'm constantly creating traction. And then I want to give you length. And again, I didn't figure this out in the beginning by myself. What happened was I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal. When you saw me in 1997 and 1998, Macho, Hogan, Sting, Flair, all those guys made 7 figures. Right. I made $275,000.
Wow.
That's what I made. $295 the second year. And they wanted to renegotiate me at one point, but I held out because I knew I'd make the big money. So now I got the bottom side, $4.7 million 3-year deal. And not even a year into it, I'm done. They're telling me I can't wrestle anymore. When I went to see 3 different spine specialists, they all said the same thing. Like, dude, you caught lightning in a bottle. Like you did the impossible, but it's over. You will be a cripple. And now you do talk about emotional gravity. And a big part of my app is Motivational Mondays every Monday. Fabulous Facebook Fridays. On Friday, I go to a site that's on Facebook that my buddy Chris Gabriano started. It was for people who do the program, not my thing. They do it for people who teach it and people who do it. There's over 61,000 people on there now. It is the most active site anywhere. The community, women put up pictures you would never believe, men too, because it's a no judgment zone. Everyone's helping each other. So every Friday, I put another video out on that. Every Tuesday, it's a new workout. Every Wednesday, it's a new cooking show. I'm not going to tell you what to eat. I'm going to give you choices, one after another. How I eat, gluten-free, dairy-free. This is an organic juice I buy. It's 100% organic and cold pressed. It's all natural. That woman healed herself from cancer with juice. So I'd follow her and support her product. In Atlanta, it's called Bamboo, and they deliver, which is perfect. But I'm constantly coming up with new things on the app. So back to the doctors tell me it's over. Around that time, my first ex-wife, who's still one of my best friends, Kimberly, she was like, you really should try yoga to heal your body. And I was like, fuck that. I'm not doing yoga. Because I was that guy, really ignorant, stupid to a certain degree. It was like I would do anything, try anything. I've been juicing since 1998. My brother taught me how to do it. My daughter Brittany did it for me. I took it fresh and frozen, all cold pressed. No one knew what cold pressed juice was, but my brother did. He's like, makes me look like I eat junk food. So, so bottom line is that the depression set in, and the emotional gravity of pulling myself down. But I know as I'm doing that, okay, get the pity party over. Now let's figure out what we're going to do here. I tell people all the time, Oprah, Trump, Obama, Brady, LeBron, The Rock, they all go down.
Yeah.
The key is not to stay there, to kick out and start figuring out, okay, how am I going to fix this? So she got me down there, and she started putting tapes in of different instructors, because it was VHS back then, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, no. And then I came across a guy named Brian Kess, and he's a guy from Detroit, and like double tough, but super yogi, but not.
Yeah.
Like just a cool dude. And I couldn't figure out his moves in the beginning, because back then, and he does it now, he shows modifications, but back then he didn't. And so I had to figure them out. And that became like my quest. And within 3 weeks, I started feeling significant difference. Now, at the time, I'm still doing rehab.
Right.
I've rehabbed both shoulder surgeries, both knee surgeries. Mm-hmm. So now it's my back, and I'm going in for the rehab 5 days a week, because my goal is I got to get back in the ring. I'm 30. At that time, I'm 42 years old. If I don't get back in 6 months, my contract's gone.
Right.
So that was a driving goal. Plus, the money wasn't as a big a factor as the wanting to get back to continue to live the dream. Right. So one night before I go to bed, because after 3 weeks of just doing yoga and just doing rehab, I started to feel a difference. And I credit a lot of it to the yoga. So one night before I went to bed, I just thought, I'm going to mix, instead of doing the yoga and then the rehab before I go to bed, I'm going to do them both at the same time. I started doing my own thing. And then I threw in, calisthenics, old school push-ups, squats, crunches, simple stuff that we all grew up with, and did it with a slow burn movement. And what I figured out by accident, like if I'm in Warrior and I just start to, if you just hold your arms there, mm-hmm. you can stay there for a long time. If you were to be in the gym and you grab cables and then you start pulling 3, 2, 1, And if you're looking at the heart monitor, like back then it was on my wrist. Now the heart monitor is on the chest or the wrist, goes right to your app. You can see it on your DDP Yoga Now app, right up there. At the end of the workout, it's going to tell you how long you weren't in your zone, how long you were in your zone, how long you were over your zone, how many calories did you burn. So when I'm doing it back old school and I'm squeezing tight here, I'm watching my heart rate go 111, 112, 113, 115, 116. I was on 17. Now I let go. 115, 112, 111. Engage, pull, goes up. So what I figured out by accident is every time you flex or engage a muscle, your heart has to beat faster to get the blood to the muscle. So, Justin, this is what I created. Today, I brand it DDPY. The company will always be DDP Yoga. I love it being involved with the yoga world, but sort of like, there's better than, there's less than, and they're different than. There's 100 different types of yoga. The yogi people get it. They get it. It's the billions of people over here who don't and need it. So that's where I go. So what I created, DDPY, in less than 3 months, I created something that was kick-ass cardiovascular conditioning. And I could prove it because of the heart monitor. Dramatically increases your flexibility. You saw Arthur. Strengthen your core at a whole nother level. You saw both of us holding our foot over our head. And here's the beauty, with minimal joint impact, virtually no impact. But my lawyer tells me I have to say, Virgil, minimal joint impact, because it is minimal if it's anything. The bottom line was, in less than 3 months, I was back in the ring. At 42, they said my career was over. At 43, I got that thing over there on one of my 3 times. And that's like, in our world, that's like getting the Oscar.
Yeah.
The Hall of Fame is the same Hall of Fame that's in the NFL or, the NBA, man. That Hall of Fame is real because it is the elite of the elite. And when you start at 35, you have a career ending, your career takes off on the back end of 40. And then 2 years later, they say your career's over. And then you get back in there in 3 months. You give people hope at a different level.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And what was that like? I mean, you mentioned being in the WWE Hall of Fame now, which I believe was 2017, they inducted you in. What was that moment like when you got that phone call and they're like, we're putting you in the Hall of Fame? Because it is real. And by the way, I can't wait till they have a physical location. I'll go. Yeah. And I mean, I've grown up a huge baseball fan my whole life. I've never been to Cooperstown, but I will go to the WWE Hall of Fame the second it opens up. But what was that moment like when you got that call and you're like, wow, like all of this hard work is being acknowledged?
First of all, I wasn't expecting it, which is super cool.
Yeah.
They were doing their version of my story, the little documentary. They called it Positively Living. And they were filming me in my hometown. And I actually was down on the shore across from the beach. My girl, one of my best friends, Linda, owns a little, corner pub there, that I've been to a million times. And we shot some stuff in there. And then they wanted because the sunset was hitting perfect. And they wanted to do interview outside. And the producer came up and said, hey, boss wants to talk to you. And it was Triple H. Now, Triple H was there in WCW when I went from manager to wrestler. He was like super nice, but he was like, dude, what are you thinking? Like, I'm 22, you're almost 36. Like, and everybody had the same feeling. It was like, by the time you figure it out, you're going to be too old. Like you won't be able to do it anymore. And so what he got to see was all the people second guessing me and making fun of me. He got to see the work ethic. And he got to see, like I was not going to be denied. I figured out if I kept wrestling when I was 23, I have an actual picture that I took of a card that I found, 1979. I wrestled 3 times and somebody sent me that card.
Wow.
And it was Handsome Dallas Page. And, if I would have kept paying my dues, by the time 83, 84 rolled around, it might have been me against Hogan, and maybe it was me and Roddy Piper, against Hogan, who knows? But maybe I wouldn't have been ready yet too. And maybe I would have got stuck in, because I partied back then. Maybe I would have got pulled into that party lifestyle, because those guys, like, you have to understand why. Another reason why they're so beat up. They didn't do the crazy stuff that my generation did. And what they're doing today, like, thank God there's about 50 to 80 different guys doing my program. And if they weren't, they would be crippled for life, because they're the highest level of stuntman ever.
Right.
But back then they didn't do a lot of that. But what they did do was work 90 straight days, 2-a-days on Saturday and Sunday. So they were wrestling 9 matches a week for 90 straight days. And they made a bunch of money, but they were also putting a lot up their nose and painkillers. And it's a reason why a lot of the guys died so early.
Yeah.
WWE is the best. WWE has some of the best policies right now to make sure that doesn't happen again. And the guys don't work that much anymore. So
especially with COVID.
Who knows what's going to happen with that? That's going to be really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, when COVID, when we open the world back up, right? I know you're in the South. You guys are a little bit more open than we are up here in PA. But when the world opens up again, I wonder what that's going to look like when the wrestlers are like, I was doing well with just the shows, with just television. Like, what's that going to look like? I know AEW has a good grasp on that, and you have a relationship with Cody. But I imagine they'll be taking care of their wrestlers too. And I just love seeing competition again. I love seeing.
God.
Yeah.
Thank God.
It steps the game up. You know what I mean? Everybody steps their game up. But I mean, your story is absolutely incredible, and you've gone on to help countless people, and people can go find documentaries and YouTube videos of you with Jake the Snake Roberts. By the way, just an incredible documentary. And the work that you did with him is absolutely unbelievable. What is it about you that you, I don't want to say feel the need, but that you constantly put yourself in the position to let me resurrect you, if I could steal a word? Where'd that come from?
I bet you I got 30 guys jobs in WCW. I was in a good power position. I was a top guy. Me and Eric Bischoff were best friends. I could bring, I'll never forget Kenyon. He's like, he'd been trying to get me to get this Billy Kidman a tryout. And I was like, dude, I've gotten too many guys jobs. I just can't keep asking Eric for another guy to look at. And he goes, just watch this one tape. Just watch 2 minutes. Watch his finishing maneuver. And he put it in the VHS deck, and he did it. He did that shooting star press thing, right?
Yeah.
I go, wow. Rewind that. I walked down to Bischoff's house. I put it in the thing. He was watching a TV show. I waited for a commercial. I said, you want to see a finish we've never seen before? He said, absolutely. I put it in. He went, wow, what's he doing? I said, looking for a job. Eric right there said, 400 a week. Tell him to get down here. Developmental deal. We'll see what happens. It's Billy Kidman.
Yeah.
He had a hell of a run. And he works at WWE, in the office, and, got a job probably for life, because he's a great human being and just a great, kid all the way around. But I helped so many guys do that first. And it just, when I was in the nightclub business, before any of this, I'd always do toys for tots. And it's just, I tell people all the time, you want to feel better about yourself, help somebody. Something as simple as, the old, Boy Scout walking the old lady across the street. I mean, when you do shit like that, you just feel better about yourself. Now, I can remember back when this really took off, which was about 9 years ago, when Arthur's video went viral and people started to see what I was doing with Jake. And if anybody is watching, you do not have to be a wrestling fan in any way. Yeah. There's 2 movies you want to watch on Amazon Prime. One is The Resurrection of Jake the Snake. If it was about 3 rock and roll dudes or 3 golfers, we would have won the Oscar. That's how good it is. But it's about 3 wrestlers. It's not about wrestling. About 3 wrestlers, about 3 buddies, and that 2 of them aren't doing so good. And the trial, of trying to help turn those guys' lives around. Back then, a lot of people who are listening, they don't know this, but there was a lot of wrestlers before the age of 50 who died. And it was like 89 of them. Wow. It was that many. And it got to a point that so many guys were dying in the 2000s that there was like this morbid death list up there. Like, who do you think's going to be the next to go? And Jake and Scott were always 1 and 2, always. And when they came in, and I did it for Jake because he was finally ready to listen. And I sent him Arthur's video. And again, anybody listening, I'm sure you can put it up on your thing right there, the Arthur video, or just go to DDPY.com. Go to the bottom of the page. It's right there. It'll make you cry. More than anything, it'll inspire you to believe. And that's really, what my program's all about is helping people inspire to build confidence. When Jake was living with me, he was the first one that I went to. I had no idea how broken up he was. He had told me that he'd gone through rehab like months before. And, I thought he was clean. I thought maybe a couple beers a day. But when I went to see him, first thing I asked him was, last time you did drugs? Well, got a couple beers. I said, no, Coke, crack. Well, a month ago, which means yesterday.
Right.
A lot of people saw me as bringing in an addict into my home, but I didn't see it like that. I saw bringing the guy that without him, I don't live in this sweet home. That's how I saw it. I saw it as a way to help give him back his dignity, because Jake was one of those guys, especially when he was high. He didn't care what he said about anybody. So he just didn't burn bridges. He nuked bridges, where those are forever gone relationships. But how can you fix that? Well, by turning your life around, showing you're really, really being serious. And, Jake is one thing that Jake has found. Jake helps so many people, and he loves it because he loves being sober now. And it took a long time. And The Resurrection of Jake the Snake, it's dark because it's about addiction, but it'll make you laugh. Yeah. It will make you cry, but most of all, it'll inspire you. The other movie's called Relentless, and that's really like my story from blowing my back out to where we are today. And the ending, like you said, it wasn't this January, but last January, Cody asked me if
I always miss a whole year because of COVID. It's like a year disappeared.
Right.
And as we were talking, I was like, oh crap, that was 2020. But yeah,
yeah, but that's cool though. It's like that people could see me out there for one more match. And then when I did in the match, it blew everyone's mind. Not just to jump off the top rope, which was crazy, but the movement in the ring and how I could hit the move still and no ring rust. I hadn't wrestled in 12 years before that.
Unreal.
But I do a workout that strengthens my body at a whole different level. But it just doesn't strengthen my body. It strengthens my mind. And that's the thing that Jake, that I thought was fascinating, because every time we'd be interviewing, and we got interviewed by HBO Sports and Yahoo Sports and, Deadspin. I mean, like everybody, because they couldn't believe that I brought this guy who was, famous and infamous at the same time. And when no one, I mean, Jake was making like $500 a show if he could get booked, because no one would believe he would come, or if he came, what kind of shape's he going to be in?
Right.
Today, Jake makes so much money, it would flip you out, because he's one of the best ever. And there's not many of us left. Yeah. There just isn't, especially guys who own their own names. There's a small handful of people who are in that spot, and Jake's one of them. So to help Jake was amazing, but one of my favorite stories, in 1997, we were the feud of the year, me and the Macho Man. And it's really fascinating, to look back on, because early January of 1996, you would have never picked me anything past mid-card guy. Just January of 1997, I exploded. And when I did the stuff with the NWO, and then I wrestled Savage 6 days after my 41st birthday. No, excuse me, one day. That was the world title. One day after my 41st birthday, and beat him. It took me to a level that I can't even explain. And over that Thanksgiving, back then we had beepers, right? But it was like texting, because you could text little messages. And I got a bunch of these little texts saying, "Hey, dude, thank you so much. Helping me live the dream. I really appreciate it." And I could get one after another after another. And I started thinking, like, who doesn't know that I'm grateful? Because I'm usually, I talk about everybody. I mean, everybody pretty much knows, because I've thanked them over and over again over the years. But back then it was like November, it's Thanksgiving. It was that Wednesday of Thanksgiving. And I thought, I'll bet you Randy doesn't know. So I called him up and I left a message. And he never answered the phone ever. I left a message. I go, "Mach, bro, listen, you're going to think this is kind of corny, but I'm getting a bunch of guys asking me for, not asking for, they're thanking me for helping them. And, setting them up with, the gig. And, and I was just thinking, man, so many of these guys, I go, who doesn't know I'm thankful? I said, not much. I go, I don't know if you know, bro, but it's not lost on me that I am not living this life. I am right this moment. I was like one of the Beatles at that moment. Yeah. People saw me and they lost their minds, walking down the street, whatever it was. And it was crazy. It was so surreal. And people couldn't do enough. When you need it, it's tough to get people to do shit for you. When you don't need it, everybody wants to do for you. And I just told him, I said, it's not lost on me, bro, that I am not in this position in my life without you. And I just want you to know, I'll never forget it. God bless you, bro. Happy Thanksgiving. So I didn't think about it again, because I didn't hear from him. And then I saw him on TV that Monday. And when he saw me from across, because the buildings, when you walk into an arena that holds 22,000 people, It's huge backstage. And he saw me as I was walking in the door, and I hear, Diamond, get over here. Like, he was an intense cat.
Yeah.
All the time.
So what you saw on TV was pretty accurate, huh?
He was still amped up, boy, but he wasn't much lower in the back. And he could go right there immediately. And I come walking over to him, and he grabs me and he pulls me in his office. He says, I got your message. Yeah, I did. And I listened to it. Yeah. I listened to it a couple of times. I did. Yeah. So then I called my dad. Now, his dad's a very famous, wrestler from back in the day. He said, Dad, did you ever have one of the boys call you up and thank you like this? And he said, no. I just want you to know it meant a lot. And then he hugged me, and, like tired I've ever been hugged. And it just goes to show, it's lessons like that. And I've learned that lesson over and over again. The words thank you, please, thank you. It costs nothing, and they mean so much to people.
Yeah, dude, I love that story. Also, on another note, your Macho Man impression is spot on. Like, I felt like I could have closed my eyes, man. And he was sitting there, but that's got to mean so much, especially with him, not being with us anymore, and just to know that you had that moment. And I think to think about it from that standpoint of him no longer being here, what if you missed that opportunity to show gratitude? What if you missed that opportunity to say thank you? You know what I mean? And thank God you did. Thank God you were able to reach out and do that, and you actually did, man. And that speaks volumes to who you are as a person. And I love it. And just like I've loved this conversation, and I want to ask you a question that I ask everybody that I chat with. And obviously some of the people on the wall and some people are not on my wall. I've had the honor to interview some of the most successful people in the world, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, what is your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every day, which I know you've labeled some of them already, but what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success for yourself?
So ask the first question again.
What's your definition of success?
Freedom. I can do whatever I want. I'm fortunate enough that my company in the last 9 years has blown up so much that, I finally had to do all that trust stuff and stuff for my kids and everybody, because it's just blown up so much. God has given me so much. Things I do every day. I take care of me, number one. And I tell people all the time, you are the most important person. The most important. And so many people say, no, it's my kids. No, it's not. You get cancer, their life changes dramatically. You're an iron worker, and you're out riding your motorcycle, and you break both your legs. They don't eat. I take care of me, number one. After that, I take care of everybody else. And most of all, I stay grateful. I call it attitude of gratitude, because there's, like anything, there's times where I get like, God, son of a bitch, why does that have to have, like, my shoulder? I did something to my shoulder, screwing around, and I built my strength up so much. And there's a video of me on my 64th birthday. I'd never done more than 10-second push-ups, where you lower 10, 9, 8, until you get 3 inches off the ground, and you hold for 10. And then you push up for 10, 9, 8. That's 1.
Unreal.
I had a video of me doing 10, and I hadn't done 10 in probably 2 years. And then I have a new part of my business that I call it's BFR, it's blood flow restriction straps. And I call them my jacked, because you get jacked up and the muscle definition, the strength. And I'd only been doing them about 7 months. And they were in the testing stages still. On my 64th birthday last year. And I said, I'm going for 11 today and I'm going to hit it. And I hit it. I got 11. And then I thought, oh my God, I think I can get 12. And I've only seen one other guy do 12. And he was a stud from NXT's camp down in Orlando. And I lowered for 10. I held for 10. And on 10, 9, 8, at 7, I have to lower my one knee to get all the way up. That's how strong I was. And then I was screwing around and doing this, climbing up the face of a rock. And I wasn't doing it to do that, because I'm not going to do that crazy stuff. But I was doing it kidding around. And the first time I only went up like 3 feet. We shot the angle like I was way up there. So it was a funny thing. And then when I came down, my girl Paige didn't film it the right way. So we got to do this again. But we had to get someplace else. So we ran into that. We came back. I go, let's do this. And I had the Vibrams on. So all of a sudden I could grip. I can go higher. I got 12 feet, 13 feet in the air. And I realized I'm holding on to the rocks. And I realized, oh my God, I can't figure out with my feet how to get down. And I got down to where I was about 6 feet off the ground. And then I was just turning and I just slipped and I was holding and my whole tweaked the hell out of my shoulder. Ugh. So I've been working on fixing that. And whenever I get to a point where I start feeling sorry for myself, because last night was the first night, because my brother turned me on to this. I told you, he makes me look like I eat garbage. Yeah. He's just raw, organic, not cooked, vegetables and fruit. Oh. And this thing is a, you know what a neti pot is, right?
Yeah.
It's like a neti pot on steroids. It's got 2 holes and it's compartment above with water and a compartment where the water goes through. And the water circulates through your nose. The bottom line is he got me to do it one time and all of a sudden, oh my God, I can really like breathe. And I've been doing it every day for the last, I don't know, about 2 weeks. Last night I was laying in bed. I said to my girl Paige, I said, I have not been able to sleep on my back for decades because I stopped breathing when I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
But I don't see how I can stop breathing right now. There's nothing clogged. It's all clear. And last night, it's getting used to that, because for 65 years, I've been sleeping on my shoulders, which I was agonizing with this.
Oh, yeah.
Really bothering me. But whenever I do start to think about, like, wow, man, like, why is this happening to me? I go, you know what? You can do this still. I got buddies of mine, can't do this. And a lot of them. Right. And they can still lock up, they can still bench press, but they can't do this. And the ones who can do this. If they work with me, before you know it, if they really put the work in, they can get there too. But I'm so thankful. And that goes back to the attitude of gratitude. So it's taking care of myself, taking care of everyone else, and living life with an attitude of gratitude so that I can always lead by example.
Dude, I love it, man. And that's so true. One thing I say all the time when I speak, or a lot of times on this podcast, I talk about how you have to fill your cup first, because you can't pour from an empty cup. So I always say what is in my cup is mine, and what overflows is for everybody else. And so taking care of yourself.
Tremendous.
It's massive, right? That's the game changer for sure, man. Like I said, I've loved this conversation, but I'd be remiss if I didn't ask. I know you said multiple times you're never going to wrestle again. That was it. The AEW match, which was phenomenal, by the way. But in wrestling, everybody knows never say never. There's always one more match. So if it had to be with anybody, not saying it's going to happen, but if it had to be with anybody, who's the one guy that will take you out of this last retirement to say, I got one more match?
Well, he couldn't take me out of the retirement only because it wouldn't be what it would be. But if I could go back in time, and it really worked out for a lot of good reasons that it didn't happen, but the People's Champion versus People's Champion, me against Rock, would have been so much fun. So much fun. That's the one, if I could go back in time and do it, it would be with him. There's no one I want to go out and wrestle with. When Cody said to me afterwards, he was like, did you see Relentless yet?
I did. I watched it. Yeah.
And what he says at the end, is so good, powerful, and he said to me, after we watched it, because he was over at my house, and he goes, so what do you think? One more? And I said, if you can top that, yeah. I don't know how you're going to do that, but if you can top that, then I will absolutely consider it. But I don't see how you do. I mean, the whole thing with me and Max, the crowd was white hot. Now me jumping in and do some cutters, which every time I do that cutter,
I bet
this shoulder, I leave a little piece of that shoulder, in that ring. So I've done everything, I don't ever need to do it again. I mean, I talk to guys like Drew McIntyre all the time. Of course, I talk to Cody and UT, and one of the reasons you might have seen him, Anthony Agogo. He's one of my boys. Big Kaz. I talk a lot of the guys, and I give them, my opinions on stuff, and they can take whatever they want and do their own thing. I know that's what I always did. I listened to what Jake said. I listened to what Dusty said. Listen to what Kevin Nash said. And then I did what I wanted to do. And there's times where I went back to Kevin Nash. I'm like, God, I wish I would have listened to you. I'd have another $3 million in the bank easily, if I'd have listened to Kevin Nash. And I am so well off. I don't need it, but it would have. He was a very smart cat, man. And,
he knew how to make money.
He
knew how to make money. That's for sure. I
love
that, man. Dude, that's so
does.
good. Like I said, I wrap up every single interview with one question, but before I get there, how do people follow you? How do they get into DDPY? What's all the good stuff, just so they know where to go?
Well, I would recommend to anyone who's listening and even thinking about it, just go to DDPY.com, DDPyoga.com, same thing. Go to the app, try it. 7 days, costs you nothing. You don't want to do it, kill it. But then you'll know. Go there and just look at it. It'll blow your mind. There's no other what do we call it now, honey? Interactive DDP
fitness program?
No, not just fitness, DDPY fitness, but the interact. We're doing we have a big meeting here where we'll put together a brand new site, but it's our interactive, because it isn't just the app. You can also do it on your computer, and you can do it on your smart device. Mm-hmm. So that could be apps, iPads, it could be right off your TV. And the beautiful thing about it is the heart monitor, if you got a Bluetooth heart monitor, connects right. If you have an Apple Watch, connects right to the TV. And then you get to track everything. But don't listen to a word I have to say. If you're one of those people who need to keep researching, you can go to DDPY.com and check everything out. But go to that Facebook site, DDP Yoga, one word. It's the most unbelievable. I'm reading a book. I shouldn't say reading. I'm listening to a book right now that has to do with the power of habit. And when I got to this one point, I go, I'm going to write that down, because that's exactly what we are about. Let me see if I can pull it up here. Here it is. He wrote,
You froze on me. Dallas, you still there? No, you're muted, but you're back.
All right, can you hear me right now?
Yeah, I got you. Yep, perfect.
Okay. I don't know why you're up there. There we go. All right,
there we go.
Okay, so I'll just give you that verse back. We can close out on it.
Perfect.
It was like someone was trying to call me.
You're good.
So I recently got a book called The Power of Habit. And as I was going through it, I'm not reading it, I'm listening to it when I'm doing other things, but I'm always paying attention to what the book has to say. And one of the things I found, like, wow, this is exactly what we do. And it said, change. People must believe that change is feasible. He said, the same process that makes AA so effective, the power of a group to teach individuals how to believe, happens every time people come together to help one another change. Belief is easier when it occurs in a community. So if you don't think you can change your shit, go read what these people write. And they're all people. I'm the one who sets the ladder, sets the bar, and then there's people who have come in and just blown away. We had a guy that right now, we're still in May. We have a Positively Unstoppable, which is my book that's up on Amazon. We have a Positively Unstoppable $1 Million Challenge, and you can still join right now. It's 6 months, and we started in January. It goes to the end of October. You can still join right now. No person joins to win the $1 million. They join for this community. They join, a lot of people, looking for hope. And the last year's 4 finalists, any one of them could have won physically. It was that unbelievable. One guy, he took 6 months of his 22 months. He was 6'7" to 698 pounds. In 22 months, he lost 401 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
It's the most unbelievable. He didn't win. Okay. Because it would have been really tough to pick one of those 4, because every one of their transformations over that 6 months period was so dramatic. The next thing we go to is Positively Unstoppable book, The Art of Owning It. That 6-inch piece of real estate between your ears. Who's owning it the best? Who's made the best transformation? Then every one of those were the same. They were all unbelievable. And then we went to the last one. Who documented their journey? And it was a girl named Candy McCarthy Herndon. And she lost 90 pounds over 6 months, and she kept going. She's lost an entire body size. She's down 134 pounds. She looks gorgeous. Her personality, the change that she went through, she's all over that site. But all of them are. There's over 61,000 people. Go to ddpyoga.com. DDP Yoga, Facebook, one word. That's where I would tell people to go, because that's going to tell you what we're all about. What's your last question, bro?
Awesome. Yeah. So like I said, I wrap up every single interview with the last question. Since the show is called The Growth Now Movement, the question is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Learning how to breathe.
I love that
Breath's
answer.
Everything.
Yeah.
Everything. And I've done a lot of things, man.
I was going to say, like, that is not the answer I expected.
Yeah. Learning how to read, starting at, reading at 3rd grade level at the age of 30, learning how to read and write. in your 30s, 40s, and 50s. And I'm still learning, but becoming a wrestler at 35 and a half, creating a yoga for people who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. And I will still put learning how to breathe, like owning your breath. I have a whole chapter on it in my book. Like, there's nothing more important. I tell people, in our personal lives and our professional lives, every single one of us are constantly hit by one adversity after another, most of which we have no control over. But the one thing we do have control over, we realize that we control this 6-inch piece of real estate in between our ears. We control the way we react, how we adapt, and how we take action. Every time, every single time, how you will react will have something to do with how you're breathing. The only difference between fear and excitement is whether you're breathing or not.
Wow. That's amazing. Dallas, thank you so much, man, for coming on, spending your time and sharing your wisdom, man. And most importantly, thank you for taking what you've instilled into your life to make it a great life and helping others do the same thing and helping change their life, man, because that's what this is all about. Not just doing it for us, but like you said, that second thing you do every day of taking care of everybody else, man. This has been phenomenal. I've loved this conversation. So thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been your pleasure, Justin. Hey, let me ask you while you're on the air still.
Yeah.
Your wife is a yoga teacher. Mm-hmm. If I set you up on the app and get you locked in with a heart monitor, the whole deal, and give you 60 days to challenge you to do the program, and I'll come back in 60 days and we'll talk about it, will you do it?
100%.
Okay. All right. Get Marlon. Just text Marlon. He'll give you my number. Text me and we'll make it happen.
Awesome, man. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, man.
Great talking to you, bro.
We'll talk soon. See ya.
See ya.